Hi, my name's Eric Landrum, and you're listening to IntroPsychSessions.
Welcome to IntroPsychSessions, Season 3. I'm your host, Garth Neufeld. In Season 2, I overhauled my Introductory Psychology class and chatted with a bunch of amazing teachers of psychology about the process. Then, some of you emailed me with questions or comments. So I invited you to take the Intro Psych discussion further. These are our conversations, and we hope you'll all enjoy Intro Psych Sessions Season 3. Eric, welcome back. People just haven't heard enough from you. That's what I think.
I'm pleased to hear that, but I'm surprised. I feel like I'm oversaturated on Psych Sessions, that my voice is heard a lot. So thank you for having me back.
Well, I know that you feel that way, and that's why I want to thank you for obliging my request to have this conversation, because this is Intro Psych Session Season 3, and I think I told you this, that after Season 2, I had some folks in the teaching community nationally just reach out to me and say, hey, we really liked this, and they were really generous in sharing what they've been doing in their classrooms. And so I invited some of those people to be part of Season 3. So these are people, lots of them I've never met before, but we were like really excited. We're like kindred spirits talking about intro psych. What came up, now you weren't on the original Season 3 list. I'm sorry to break your heart. But
a heart is broken, but hearts can mend.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't going to circle back to you at all. There was no need to. We heard what you were doing in your intro psych course, but in a couple of these conversations, your episode gets referenced more than other episodes. Not that those are anything wrong with other episodes, and they do get referenced. It's just that I was trying to think about this, and I shared this with you. I think that what you did in intro psych this last term, spring term, I think it pushed people. I think it kind of it broke the box a little bit, and and some people were using that as kind of permission, and other people were saying, well, that's where the pendulum could swing to.
But we're using it as a cautionary tale, perhaps?
Well, I don't know.
What not to do?
It depends who you are, right? I think when I hear it, I get excited. Here, let me tell you a story real quick. I've got a friend who's a lawyer in Seattle, and I was talking to him yesterday, and he used to work as a defense attorney, and he really had to get into the stories, the backstories of people, so that he could make them, the judge, sympathetic towards them. And so that's how he's always approached law. Well, now he is going into a prosecutor role, and he's trying to get money from Boeing and other places for maybe accidents or something like that. And all these people want to do is talk about money, these lawyers that he works with, money. And he said, I just want to talk about stories. I just want you to talk about, and the lawyers he works with, their jaws are dropping. They're like, what are you talking about? We talk about money here. This is law. This is how we resolve issues. Now, Eric, I don't know if that story is going to connect with people, but it reminds me of this. It gave, I think, some of those lawyers permission to do something other than the status quo, and maybe on a generous read of what you did, that's what happened.
Well, and I think what your lawyer has discovered is that stories are memorable. Stories are persuasive. Stories are, I'm going to paraphrase a commercial, stories are the fabric of our lives. And I'm not kidding. I mean, what do we do with our families? We retell stories. I know that you visited with your sister recently, and I'll bet you sat around and you retold some stories from your childhood.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what we do when we reminisce. We tell stories. And so, if you want people to remember things from intro psych, you find a way to tell stories. I think good lecturers do that too. They tell stories from the studies that they've read about and what they learned in their intro psych and what they learned in their graduate training. And so I tried to find a way to do that in my own way that was innovative and could be interesting to students.
Well, I think you did that. I'm following up with you to ask. Hold on. Before we get there, before we find out what actually happened, it's interesting that we are on this topic of story, because I think yours is an interesting story. Like, the arc is really interesting. You got to a point with Intro Psych where it was, I don't know, agitating, where you just wanted to do things differently. I don't know if it was just you needed to be creative, but the beginning of the story is you had a problem that you wanted to address, and then you went and you addressed it. And why did you remind us why you did it?
Yeah, I had a couple of problems. So let me give you the backstory of I have a ton of privilege. All right. So I have the privilege of 30 plus years at Boise State. I've taught the Intro Psych course over 20 times. I'm a full professor with tenure. At the time I taught this course, I was department chair. I'm no longer department chair, but I still have a ton of privilege. So first off, I could experiment any way I wanted to, and I wasn't going to get in trouble, no matter what. Okay, so I have a ton of privilege. I stopped straight lecturing maybe 15, 18 years ago. So I went to more of an active learning classroom. In my research methods, I did a completely flipped classroom. So there's that. I got dissatisfied with multiple choice testing maybe 15 years ago, where I understand its utility. I understand where there are places where it's a necessity. I get that. I just choose for a bunch of different reasons not to do that. I don't think it serves our students well in the long run. I think in the short run, it has utility. But I know of no occupation in the United States where a person can take multiple choice tests for a living. So I don't think it's a skill that generalizes well for our students beyond college. So I tend to focus on skills. And I finally got a chance in Intro Psych, after not teaching it for 13 years, to put my money where my mouth is and try to teach my students some skills. This was a class of 80 last spring. I have 150 students in my Intro Psych class that starts 1 week from the time we're recording this podcast, and I'm doing the same things again.
Oh, you are repeating it. Okay, couldn't have been off the rails too badly.
With 150 students, so almost double from the 80 that I had. And so I wanted them to learn some skills really quickly. I had them read journal articles. I had them do weekly reflections. There was no textbook. There were no tests, but there were 3 major assignments. First assignment, they read one journal article through sourced through PsychInfo, and they made a 30-second video with very specific parameters, upload to Canvas. Second assignment, they make a 2 to 3 minute podcast summarizing 2 journal articles on a different topic sourced through PsychInfo. Third assignment, they read 3 journal articles, all sourced through PsychInfo, and they make an infographic. All those assignments with very specific rubrics and parameters, all submitted through PsychInfo. And then they had 10 weekly reflections. And then I lectured on certain topics, but not others. I tried to lecture on in class. I tried to talk about things that they told me they were interested in. So I didn't cover 16 chapters in a textbook because I didn't have a textbook. So Garth, here's the thing that will horrify our listeners. I didn't mention classical and operant conditioning in my Intro Psych class. I didn't cover it. I didn't talk about it. I didn't talk about the UCS and the UCR and the CS and the CR and the intervals. Didn't talk about it one bit. My students left Intro Psych not hearing about Pavlov, not hearing about Skinner.
Yep. Okay, so that makes some people feel uncomfortable.
That makes, yeah. But here's the gentle question I would ask. A year after their course is over, or 5 years after their course is over, do their students remember Pavlov and Skinner? Do their students remember CS, UCS, CR, UCR?
Yeah.
What I would like to believe, and I need to collect some data about this, will my students remember the 3 topics they chose and they studied? Their podcast topic, their infographic topic, and their video topic.
Yeah.
Because they chose them and they practiced some skills. I'm hoping they'll remember them. And I'm hoping they'll remember how to do a psych info search if they're curious about a topic from psychological science. Those are some skills. And they did some writing, and they did some video recording, and they recorded audio. They made a brief recording. That's what I'm hoping they take away. Yes, some of the content, but also some skills that as a 101 course might serve them well in other courses to come in their college career.
Well, you also got to spend 50 hours in the classroom with them, right? And so you did a bunch of things in the classroom.
Did a whole bunch of things. I talked about student success. I talked about retention with them. I talked about a whole bunch of things that weren't related to psychology specifically.
Yeah.
But of course they were. I talked about burnout. I talked about clinical depression. I talked about the things, the biggest thing they wanted to hear about, which I spent about almost 2 weeks on. They want to hear about serial murderers, which to me is a pop psychology topic, which, I don't watch, murder porn on TV. My wife does. I don't. She loves that stuff. But my students wanted to hear about it. So I took a deep dive into the literature, and I went back into class and gave them the data and gave it to them straight out of psychological science. And
okay, so that must have happened after we had talked, because we talked mid-semester. So one of the things that came up in one of these previous episodes was people were wondering, how did he use class time? Now, I don't think we have time to do that, because we do want to get to the data, and that is, well, you and I were laughing together last week when we had this idea, and the idea was that maybe if you were willing, that you might open up your student evaluation. I can't even get through it.
I did. So I went and found my grade evaluations. I looked at my grade distribution, and I went and found my student evaluations. And I have them here live on some screens. And so first off, let me give you some of the data. 80 student capacity in the class, 78 were enrolled. There were 3 withdrawals.
Okay.
All right. So I had 75 students where I posted grades, 48% A's, 17.3% B's, 12% C's, 12% D's, 10.7% F's.
What do you think about that distribution?
It's actually not as top heavy as it normally would be for me.
Okay.
Normally it'd be very top heavy on A's and B's with very few C's, D's, and F's. My C's, D's, and F's total 32%, 34%.
I know that I'd need to see your rubric probably to really understand this, but do you, I know you give really specific guidelines to students, and I would imagine that if they do what you ask them to do, they earn the points for that assignment, right? So students who aren't earning some points, whether they're getting a B or a C, is it that they didn't do something you asked them to do, or they didn't do it at the quality that you wanted them to do it at?
There's a couple things in there. They didn't do things, they didn't follow instructions precisely. And a lot of the lower grades are because they didn't come to class. Attendance and participation was 25% of their final grade. And they actually had a chance where they could, out of 30 possible class days, they could miss 5 with no impact whatsoever. It was on the 6th class day where they actually started losing points towards their final cumulative total. Okay. So they had a 2.5 week buffer. But after that 2.5 week, and they could see at any time where their status was.
Yep.
The grade book was updated every other day. So It's not like they could lose track of it. It's not like they didn't know where they stood. And some students, college freshmen, sophomores for the most part, got distracted, got busy, not evil people, not lazy people, got a lot going on in their life and didn't realize they signed up for an in-person class. And after the buffer, they just weren't coming to class.
So call back to season 2 when Regan and I had the discussion about should a student be able to skip class the entire semester and pass the class? And in your case, possible.
Technically, they could. They would only lose 25%. That would pop them at a middle C if they got everything else perfect.
That's right.
It's unrealistic, but yeah, I mean, they could technically, the way my class is designed, get a mid-level C.
Great. Well, okay. So what else do you have for us in terms of did the students enjoy the class?
All right. Well, I think the answer is So 75 were invited to participate in the online system. Only 17 students actually filled out my course evaluations. It's a completely anonymous system that comes out to 22.7%. I'm scrolling through it now as I'm with you.
So just as we're tracking now, 22.7, not great from survey perspective, right?
No. And by the way, I didn't do any enticements. I didn't do, if you fill out my eval, you get 10 extra points.
No.
Which I think Boise State does encourage some people to do. I don't like playing with that. I don't like manipulating that. If students want to fill it out, I know that they get independent reminders from Boise State.
Yeah.
I don't like being the person that gets in there and tries to mess with that.
Yeah.
On the questions about, please tell us about your course instructor, I look at my instructor mean, and then I tend to look at the departmental mean. And my instructor means are lower than all of the departmental means. The assessment methods were clearly explained. The instructor fostered learning in this course. The instructor seemed prepared for class. That one hurts my heart. Overall, for those three above questions, I'm lower than the departmental means.
But those were all three positive comments, yeah?
I'm up, on a 1 to 5 scale, I'm 4.31, 3.82, 4.24, but the departmental means I'm in a very strong teaching department.
Yeah.
Departmental means are all 4 3s and 4 4s.
Yeah.
There are other closed response questions. Let me get you some of the comments. What barriers to learning, if any, did you experience from this course? I feel like the instructor did not provide students with enough information or resources about psychology courses throughout the semester. I do not feel like I have a foundational understanding of psychology topics from this class. I think that's a very fair comment. Many times throughout this semester, I felt confused as to how class discussions correlated to our major assignments. Here's another one. Here's one that hurts. We didn't learn anything. 4 words. And then there's one really long one, but I haven't read this, so I'm just going to read it verbatim.
Okay.
I did not get what I had expected at all from this course. I am very interested in psychology, and by taking Psych 101, was hoping to get an introduction to the main theories and ideas, as well as basic ground level understanding of the study of psychology. Unfortunately, the instructor did not have any planned lessons, did not teach us hardly anything about psychology. There were 3 large assignments in the course, and we did research and projects on our own outside of class. Instead of using class time to teach, Landrum repeated basic information, such as how grading system works and details from the syllabus over and over. He did not show us our grades in the gradebook for the entire semester, which was incredibly inducing for me and many other students who like to keep track of their performance in class. That's not true. Landrum managed to take such an interesting topic and make the class repetitive and useless to the learning experience. I read it verbatim, except for my one little comment in there.
Eric, what's your emotional reaction when you read
Well, I think the student gets to have their reaction to it. I think a student having that opinion is fair. I think there's some inaccuracies in there, but that's their perception. I've been doing this thing altogether for 34 years, and I'm fortunate to have a thick skin.
Yeah.
I know I'm not going to be universally well liked by everyone. And to quote a very smart person, haters going to hate. So I think there's always something to be taken from comments like that. Telegraphing the clarity of why I'm doing what I'm doing. But you and I both know that some students want to walk in to a 101 course that's not in their major, and they want to memorize and regurgitate. They don't want to do something different. They want a textbook.
Yeah.
They want to be spoon-fed, They want to read, they want to listen to lecture, they want to go home and memorize, and they want to take multiple choice tests. And that format works for a lot of people in a lot of contexts. It doesn't work for me. And my students could have changed sections because they knew on day one what they were getting into. They could have changed classes. There's freedom. They weren't locked in. There were 8 different sections of Psych 101. Mine was the only one being taught this particular way. So I think it's relatively fair. I'm sorry it's negative for that student.
Yeah.
But 48% of my students did earn A's.
Yeah.
So it was doable. I mean, and they might have earned A's, but have been angry about it at the same time. And I also respect that.
Sure. Well, I want to thank you for being so honest about it. And I do think there's something refreshing about the way that you read those. You're always asking for data. Whenever we have teaching conversations, show me the data. And I like that you don't shy away from your own data. We have to run because I have a hard out, but I will be interested to hear once you process those, if and how and if it will change anything next semester. But that's going to have to be a part 3, Eric, because we are out of time. But I want to just thank you for sharing that with us, and good luck in your fall term.
The one thing I would tell your listeners is you don't have to take macro risks like I've taken, but you can take micro risks. Change one assignment in your intro psych class. Change one thing rather than having rather than having 3 exams and a final, have 2 exams, a final, and then take one of your assignments and then change it up to something and do something different. I mean, you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but you can switch out 25% of the bathwater and do something a little bit different. If you're unhappy with something, make changes in your own pace and your own time within your context of your institution, your program learning outcomes, and your personal desires.
Well, thanks, Eric. And we'll be talking soon.
All right. Thanks for the warning.
Sweet, man. Let me know if you're okay with all that going out.
I'm totally fine.
Okay. That's so funny.
Haters gonna hate.
That made me smile the whole time while you're reading.
I hadn't read that before either.
I know, but it's I find myself wanting to protect you from it, saying things like obviously that students who really didn't, it's probably bimodal, right? Students who really didn't like it or students who really liked it are the ones who are going to leave.
Right. Yeah, and I didn't get to the ones about the most valuable overall learning experience. And there's a few comments in there that are positive,
Like what?
Oh, no exams is the greatest thing ever to help kids actually learn to want to be in class and learn rather than just forced memorization. The big 3 assignments we had because we had to teach ourselves the topics we chose. Teaching the class for what students wanted to learn rather than what the basics of the course are.
Okay, so you weren't really fair with us.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to keep this in then.
No, I mean, no, you don't have to. I mean, no.
No, we're just going to put you out in the most negative light.
That's okay. And I had some of the closed-ended items where I actually outscored the departmental mean,
Yeah.
I received timely feedback from my instructor.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they got feedback on everything. Yeah. But, some students, sour grapes. We all have that.
Yeah. Well, pal, I'm gonna roll.
All right, you gotta go.
Have a great day. Yeah, and have a great start to the term.
All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye, guys.